Hi, I'm calling this one Bring It On. It seems that the beings that we are, the fullness and magnificence of what that is so not seen. And that's causing a lot of stress, not just in this lifetime, but over accumulation. So what was interesting this week was very much that the energies that are around are interacting with our physicality in a very different way. So in many ways, there seems to be an adjusting and a movement of the physical body to meet whatever the physicality is that's bringing up different physical conditions, and stuff's coming to the surface. So a being came in and has done amazing things in her life with amazing capacity to hold her own in the face of others that may have different motivations in life, but holding to her integrity and whatnot. And the pattern here was feeling flat, not sleeping, lost in herself, medication not working, and that which she loved to do, there was no connection to. And when that happens, there is a sense of, what am I here for? So what showed up was interesting, because the analogy here is, if a car, something goes wrong with a car, and you check the carburetor, you check the spark plugs, you check whether the leads are okay, you check all different odds and ends of the car, and you kind of don't find anything, but there's nothing wrong with the car. There was no petrol in the tank. And in further investigation, it was the missing element of a mineral that was so important to all the other bits working together that put the petrol back in the tank. So it can be something that needs to get the whole energetics and the digestion and the interfacing and the not feeling foggy in the brain. And that showed up for 3 people this weekend, that it was simply something to do with the body itself that needed that tweak to bring it all together, to bring through the ability to bring forth that which is eternal and again experiencing itself in this dimension, to further be in awe of what it is who you are, and to keep revealing that and experiencing that. This being, the spirit, was actually in shock. It was in shock that there was no petrol in the tank, because what am I going to do when that's not the case? And the beauty was that by the time it was finished, it was like, oh, it wasn't the car is fine. I can make it nothing. It's okay. It was just petrol in the tank, so that you can move forward without the trauma of that experience of not sleeping, all different things coming through in the body that were uncomfortable. Someone else that I saw had also an expression of something coming through her skin, right through her skin. And it was that because of the time of the year, there's more sitting, there's less activity to some extent. And that less activity and the taking in of things that you usually don't take in, it was that fine line got disturbed, and it had to come out through the skin. And in this case, it isn't like 101 tests need to be made. It was the movement that it was used to wasn't there anymore, and it created a build-up. So again, nothing wrong with the car. It's it's what's going on in the car, that the petrol tank is low or the movement needs to be made so that everything can keep flowing forwards. Now, a similar physical expression came through, but this time it was related more to what I spoke about last time, that white knuckling, where to try and fill a glass that's already full with water and to continually want to fill it with water becomes a very stressful, impossible capacity that cannot be achieved, and to try and force it and keep going that way becomes incredibly stressful in life, because you're not seeing the fullness of who you are and the beautiful overflow that by default others benefit from. And in this case, it showed up as something that was in the past. But it wasn't the past in this lifetime, it went to a reflection of another lifetime, where something unresolved there came to a point where again here the opportunity to resolve it arrived. And what showed up in the past was this fabulous desire to do more and achieve more and to gather more experience for oneself, but it was done with mind. The mind connected to this aspect of self, that it knew it was there, but it was using the language of not good enough, I can try harder, I'm sure I can be more, and that constant, to some extent, berating and not seeing oneself properly, yet at the same time knowing it's true and then driving oneself. And what needed to be in place here is to come more from that spiritual aspect, where you have a sense of who you are. And in that sense, know that as you move forward, the experience just improves and gathers the mastery as you go along, but as a joyful process, because there was no heart in this process. And the Spirit said, I can't do this anymore. I can't repeat this way of being if there's no heart in this. And to see oneself in capacity and the joy of moving forward with that, with the heart, is what it wanted. And towards the end, it actually, which is why I've come up with this week's Bring It On, there was an element of, I want this. And I thought, what is this? So I looked up an essence, and up came the energies of hostility and anger. And hostility and anger is positive, negative. I mean, everything's positive, everything's negative, if you want to call it that. But this was the encouragement of to have that sense of, I know I can do this. I can sense it, and having the oomph to go, I'm going to do this, but out of a connection to an aspect of yourself that you can see, which is different to being driven. It's subtle, but it's different. It's like when you get a jar with a lid and you find you can't move it, and there's something in you that goes, right, I'm going to do this, and boom, it opens up, that sense of oomph that is behind it. And it was wanting that oomph, but it wants that oomph with the heart in connection, not just with the striving and that continuously wanting to do better when you're already doing beautifully well. So there seems to be an energy that wants to see itself in its proper magnificence, in the wonder of who you are and what can be, and that being open and moving into, and sometimes with a bit of oomph, seems to be appearing. Someone else that came along has been living life with that oomph. And it was so beautiful to see, because it expressed itself in the marriage, in the family, in the grandchildren, this amazing capacity to bring forth the best, that this marriage had become a divine marriage. And in that divine marriage, everyone that is met in the spirit of that divine marriage. Truly, truly beautiful. The bit in this case, the importance of seeing it and recognizing it, then one can also enter into realizing when others can't match it or can't meet that aspect. In not seeing the divine marriage and how you express that in your kindness, in your love, in your generosity towards others, in the holding of the space, when someone you feel can do with a bit of holding of the space, all of that is fine. But you need to see when that goes too far and taken advantage of. Because then that element can become troublesome. So even when life is lived that magnificently, it still needs to have a seeing of oneself so that the giving of it has an appropriate place where the fullness of the enjoyment is there, but also the part that can see, here you need to take over, here you need to take the steps, here you need to bring it on. So there's a discernment there. So the cards that came up were very relevant for all of this as it is. And the first one is wonder. For a wonderful day, spend a few minutes in awe. When you let go of trying to make things happen and just wonder, you allow the energy of all things to move and flow in perfect timing. And before you know it, you need not wonder, you know. Perhaps you've been pushing the river or have felt bewildered. Now is the time to stop and admire the wonderful view from wherever you are, and then you will be able to move on. And the next card, tenacity, speaks of all of that brings us to the best that we are. Acknowledge your staying power, your courage and determination. Feel good about the adversities that have created the strength of tenacity within you. Hold on, be strong, but stop short of being stubborn, especially when you're opposed by anyone. Create great forces are at work to bring you wonderful changes, and I would say create forces that also bring wonderful changes. The last one is now, the presence of it all. Live now, be now, acknowledge now. Now is the only time you need to consider. Unchain yourself from the past, unravel yourself from the future. You are here. In this now moment, enjoy it. Is there something to be done? Stop dreaming, do it now, bring it on, and welcome 2026. Much love.